Yeah.
It was quite an extensive, wasn't it? Because you wouldn't actually. Yeah, you do some live recordings, but that's just, yeah.
The initial was, I just don't know. And then,
I suppose it's what you're going to do with it once you've done it. If it was something to do with your own practice, who is it to benefit?
yeah, I guess there needs to be some action for the extra sessions, but I say.
From changing my approach and brilliant, it's almost as if you need to know what about your approach is changing, doesn't it? And this is something that you want to identify as
Changing something, making it focus.
it'd be that sort of deep self-reflection first, and it's identifying what you think. It's almost as if you've got this weaknesses approach that needs.
It is really interesting. Again, that might be one. You might start getting something going, changing some, or because you could almost go two ways. You could always say, well, we can change and measure something, or you could say, which of those is most interesting? You can spend ages practicing, you could actually just say what's likely to say and what might be interesting.
Precursor to actually taking on the action research rather than.
That's what number 3 is. Is it just, that's interesting as well, I think that's like, what is happening tomorrow?
Yeah, you want a quantitative level of questions.
More about in definitely in the sciences, I've brought in 6 mark extended writing questions.
Yeah.
Okay. So, do you think any of these are good research questions? Are there any that start that you think are, oh yeah, you could use that one? Any of them good, or are they all in need of improvement?
I would have thought a lot of them need to be more specific, or they need a bit more of a focus, because they're very, very broad.
Yeah.
We are going to open the 10 then in terms of that actually being something that we were saying was easily measurable,
Yeah.
and that was one that you could look at and it was focused on something particular.
Yeah.
We quite like question 9 as well, on the basis of something a bit more investigative, but you know exactly your outcome.
Yeah.
Because everyone knows how to mark a 6-mark question, assuming it's a certain sort of 6-mark question,
Yeah.
as opposed to just anything.
Yeah.
I guess it's implied within a certain subject.
Yes.
After a certain exam.
Yeah.
Otherwise it might be crazy.
We liked number 9 as well, but felt that rather than saying what strategy, does this strategy have an effect? So, you know, that you're saying it needs to be tweaked to be more specific, but certainly for us as well, 6-mark question.
Yeah.
You know, does this particular strategy improve performance in this
Yeah.
6 mark? Yeah. So what sort of things do you think would make a good question? What do we need to include in it then? We've got that it needs to be quite specific, or it needs to have a clear focus.
Measurable for me or something. Yeah.
So yeah, so that you know what effect it has. Now the measurable doesn't necessarily need to be numerical, although obviously within a school it depends where you are, but you know, test results or questions are quite good. But measurable, yeah, you need to know if you've had made a difference. Any other sort of things?
There's something about having action in the action research as well, because otherwise it's not action research. So I mean, there was one thing which is the students get opportunities to research their own ideas, and you might see that, but then what's next?
Yeah, it's just a yes
And
or
you're
no
saying
question.
Yeah, well, then what?
Yeah,
Where's the
absolutely,
action?
yeah. Yeah, so there is a change to be made there, and that question is, you're right, it's a yes or no question. It's not a, how could we improve opportunities, or does this particular strategy improve opportunities? So we've got specific, measurable, achievable. Yeah, it's horribly. Smart targets actually work really well for action research. And I find it really amusing because I do at least action planning, if not action research, on every course I run, and quite often you'll have at least one person go, well, I know all about smart targets. We really, by this stage in our career, we do not need to be told about smart targets. We don't need to be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bounded. We don't need any of that. And then they give me their action plan and their outline and their question. And it's this massive, vague thing, improve or remove all misconceptions of Key Stage 3 science. Okay, so you might know about smart targets, but let's actually focus down. And that's where the question, it's actually really helpful if you do want to do action research, to get somebody to talk to you about it, so that you say, this is what I'm going to do, and they pick holes in your plan. Critical friend is the kind way, but they've got to pick holes in it and try and get you. So one of the things about action research is it's really useful, and actually I would say it's probably vital, that if you do want to do it, is you get somebody from outside to help you. Now it can be, it can be anybody in the school. It could be, if you've got a particularly helpful friend that might want to do it, that's not a problem. And actually, Daniel sent me the list of his school's plans, and I wrote back, and you as well, didn't you, David? And we just wrote back and said, well, have you thought about this? This isn't. So anybody, if you want to use me as a critical friend, that's absolutely fine. But it is about being specific, and that is the key. And I think one of the things when you start doing this kind of idea, when you start planning, is it feels wrong somehow to be really small, to try something out really small. So something like a word wall, is putting up a poster, which it will come down to a poster. It doesn't feel like it's a big change, and we think research, it should be, it should have impact and meaning, and it should be big. And then you look at the questions that have impact and meaning and are big, and they're too big because you can't do it all. So, use of IT to improve student achievement. What IT? Which students? What achievement? It's got to really focus down on what it is. And that's one of the things is, I don't like smart targets, but actually that's a really useful acronym to remember when you're writing action research, when you're thinking about changing something in your classroom to observe. Okay. So, that's just in case. So one of the things is, well, where do we find ideas from? And this handout we adapted it from a piece of work by John Hattie, who wrote a paper about expert teachers. As I said, the idea is that you can be an experienced teacher, but you've taught the same classes for 20 years. So experience and expertise aren't the same. So Hattie wrote a paper saying teachers make a difference, and he went through and came up with, these are things that expert teachers do. Now, this isn't a list of what any one particular expert teacher did. It's a list of what characteristics were in common from a lot of expert teachers. And I say that because people take this and they read it through and they go, oh, I don't do that. Oh, I do that a little bit. It's not a checklist to say whether you are or not an expert teacher, but it's saying that if you want to develop as an expert teacher, these are the characteristics that other expert teachers have done. And so what is worth sort of looking at is having a look at some of the things that Hattie says, and we have a little tick box of this happens often in my classroom, this happens sometimes, this happens rarely. And what we say to people is, well, have a look at this and see if there's anything on here that jumps out at you. Something that you do maybe sometimes that you think you would like to try a little bit more. or something that's not. And again, if you want, I can send you an email of this, because it's actually quite a nice self-assessment tool, just as a sort of a thing. So have a look through at what sort of things Hattie thinks an expert teacher does, and then just have a little chat to see if there's any of those that you think might be worth doing action research on, because some of them aren't suitable for action research, but some of them are. So I'll give you another sort of 5 minutes chat time.
Yes.